Awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you guys here. And I'm watching the chat box. We have people from all over. I'm a little jealous. I see some Montana, Utah, Oregon, little jealous. And DC, who's here from DC? That's where I'm from originally. So Julia, nice to see you. So excited to have you all here today. It looks like we have a mixture of operations, which God bless all of you. We need you so much. And then we have inside sales agents as well as buyer and selling agents or solo agents. So we have quite a mix today. All of us will benefit from the systems and processes of how to chat with older leads, which is the focus of today. So really what we want to jump into is some tactical things. What I'm going to do is I teach for MAPS, the class called Mastering Inside Sales for Agents and ISAs. It's really mastering lead generation. We've toyed with the idea of changing the name so that it's more clear what that is. But Mastering Inside Sales, in session 16, we spend a whole hour on old leads. So what do we do when we call old leads? What I would like, because we have a half hour, is put in the chat box what your biggest questions are on this topic so I can customize it. And that way we'll do our best to get all of your questions answered in the time that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and start with, how do you open up a call with a cold lead? Have you ever felt like I'm calling this person and you feel like you have to read all of the history notes? Or maybe you think, I just inherited this from someone and I don't have a clue what the history is. So I want to give you something that you can use for really any of those scenarios. It will work whether it was a recent call, whether it was an inherited lead, or maybe you have no idea anything about them. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to say their name and then your name and from where. Let me pause real quick. In the Mastering Inside Sales class, which I'm curious if any of you are in there, put in the chat box if you are. June says yes, I thought so. In that class, we talk about the call opener. And June, you can speak to this because you've had this training now. Maybe you've been able to see it work. But a lot of times when I teach how to open a call, and I get it, but the result or the response I see is like, this is kind of elementary. I mean, we know how to open a call. And then when people go to do it, they say that was a lot harder than I actually expected it to be. And then June, maybe you can attest to this. But then the next class, they'll say, I had more people stay on the phone with me this week. It worked.
Yes. And that is so true, Anna. Not only is it just by, a little repetition, but with all that you teach and all that we've gone over, it just makes it that much more familiar to us. And it's just like, you get on the phone, you just start talking and you remember what kind of has to play out. And it just is a more comfortable call and a more successful call. So definitely.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, June. And I think Jenny, I see you in here from class as well. But yeah, the opener, I just bear with me. I know it probably seems a bit basic, but I promise you it's something that when you do it, you will have more people stay on the phone with you and engage. So just write down the little details. I promise you it will pay off. So you're going to go over your name, their name, and where. So, hey, this is Anna calling from the Haro Group, Keller Williams. Is this June? Okay. Or you could say, hey, June, this is Anna from the Haro Group, Keller Williams. However you want to do that. Then you're going to say, thank you for taking my call. The reason we express gratitude, just think about this for a minute. If someone calls you out of the blue and you're considering hanging up on them, we all do that, right? We do it ourselves. If they just said, hey, I really appreciate you taking my phone call. Well, now I can't hang up on them, right? So when you express gratitude that they took your phone call, psychologically, they will not be as likely to hang up on the phone with you. What we are not going to do is say, how are you? So if you are tempted to say, how are you? Like I once was, we're going to replace that with thank you for taking my call. It will incline them to want to stay on the phone with you. We say, how are you, to build rapport, yet expressing gratitude is actually the best way to build rapport. So your name, their name, why you're calling, thanks for taking my call. Then I like to throw in for those older leads and just acknowledge, hey, I know I'm calling you a bit out of the blue today. And the reason I'm calling is a while back, you expressed interest in moving. The reason we're going to say expressed interest in moving versus I was calling because you were in our database. How many of us have said that? I've done that before. I don't know if any of you watch any of those crime shows where they have to pull out a cold case and they go in the basement and there's all these like shelving with file boxes. Can you picture this? And they go down there and they're like dusty, and then they pull them out and they look at the old case file. Whenever I hear someone say the word database, I immediately in my head, I'm like, we're in that room with the dusty boxes. Like, it's just not a good feeling word, right? Database sounds like I'm just a phone caller, right? Not a real estate professional. So what we want to instead say is, hey, I saw that you had expressed interest. That's much more friendly, much more upbeat, right? Then you're going to say, what had you thinking about moving? Which is directly getting into their motivation. We're getting right into their motivation. So again, we're not asking, how are you? But we are going to ask them what makes them want to move. The reason for that is people are very intrigued about themselves, right? How many of you have ever been maybe walking out of church or walking out of work or a restaurant, and you're kind of in a mission to get going, and then someone sees you and they're like, hey, Glory, real quick, how are the kids? Well, what do? Stop and talk about the kids, right? Because now we're talking about ourselves. I see a lot of you smiling at me. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So when you call these older leads, and let me put this back up so you can get that written down. When you call these older leads and you work through this opener, that's going to leave them with talking about themselves. So, hey, Cassandra, it's Anna from the Haro Group. Hey, thank you for taking my call today. I know I'm calling you a bit out of the blue. Yet a while back, you expressed interest in moving. What has you thinking about moving? And then that opens the door for them to talk. So this opener is the one that we find is the most effective. Now, it doesn't mean some people won't still hang up on you, or some people might say, what? Who's this? But we find this reduces that dramatically. So this call opener is the best that we have found. Carol, I see your question. Do you avoid saying, did you end up buying a home? Yes, because that is what's called a closed question. How many of you have ever had someone call you, and maybe you even were interested in what they had to sell you, but they asked you a yes or no, and you just were kind of tired, you didn't feel like talking, so you were just like, oh, no, thanks. Where maybe actually you would have done something, right? So we want to avoid the yes or no questions because it will quickly make it, and Carol, I see you say that you agree there, it will make it easier for them to say no. So really, truly, the best thing is just go straight into an open-ended question directly about their motivation, like on the screen. And I saw someone else say, will you send this information? We don't have a handout for you, but you can take notes from the screen there. And also the recording will be available. Yeah. So I see Ashley say, we have a ton of leads who never expressed interest in real estate. We got their contact information from events. So what I would say there, Ashley, is unless you're circle calling, which is where you call a neighborhood around maybe a listing or something, if you met them at an event, there was some reason they submitted their information, right? Like there was some reason that you got their phone number, you got their email, something, right? So you could still say at some point you expressed interest in our real estate team. What had you thinking about moving? Here's what I have found, guys. If I just assume everyone is interested and they want to move, the people that aren't will let me know, right? They'll say, oh yeah, that was 5 years ago and we've already bought a house. Okay, great. But I don't want to say, is now a good time? Are you still interested? No. You know, are you buying a house? No. That's how they do it, right? Because they're calling these older leads. So again, very open-ended, make it about motivation. What made it about motivation? Yes, Kristen, I see your question. If they're 12 months old, what has you thinking about the real estate process? You could. I do think asking them very directly about motivation, however, is the best. My experience, I have a ton of experience calling expired leads. Now, can we all agree that they're very non-existent at the moment? But they used to be. And so I only say that to tell you, I get calling older leads that are a little bit like, you know, they're not real happy with real estate agents. And even calling them, it would be, you know, hey, Dana, a while back, your home was listed for sale. I saw it came off the market. I'm so curious, what had you thinking about moving when you originally listed your home? It worked. Because anything else causes them to focus on the problem or the process, but not their actual motivation. Got it? Let me put it a different way. If you've been in class with me before, you might have heard this. And then we're going to get into some other tactical things besides just the opener. But we're harping on the opener for a minute, because if you nailed that right, the rest of the call will go much better. That's why we're hanging out here for a moment. But how many of you have like a, I don't know, a 15-year-old niece or maybe a nephew or son or daughter who's in the dating world, right? And you get together for July 4th and you're like, hey, so how's it going with that boyfriend? And they say, oh, well, he's such a jerk. We broke up. Well, stay with me. I promise this is real estate related. Just stay with me. If I said, well, what made you decide to break up? Now she's going to tell me all the reasons why she can't stand him, right? Because I just said, what made you decide not to proceed with him? So she's going to tell me all the negative stuff. That is going to be really hard to turn around into a positive conversation, right? Because I'm basically inviting, tell me all the reasons you're disgruntled and unhappy. Lay it on me. Tell me. Well, it's going to be really hard to turn that conversation around. But if I instead say, man, I'm so sorry to hear you broke up. You know, when you first started dating him like a year ago, what made you want to date him in the first place? Well, he was really funny and he carried my books to class and I love his family. He's attractive. Now she's going to start crying and, oh, I want to get back together with him, right? Because I tapped into her initial motivation. So a lot of times what we do when we call older leads, we go right into, oh, what changed your mind? That's exactly like saying, what made you break up with him? You're inviting negativity. So if you start with, however long ago it was, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago, hey, when you requested this a year ago, what made you interested in moving? That's an awesome opportunity. Talk about the original motivation. Does this make sense, everybody? I told you I would bring the boyfriend-girlfriend scenario back to real estate. I see a question, what if they're on hold to COVID? That would really be an objection language pattern, in which case I would just, this is a whole class in Mastering Inside Sales, a whole hour, okay? But here's the brief answer. I'm glad you told me. What is it about COVID that concerns you? So you're going to acknowledge it with a thank you. Ask an open-ended question. So I'm glad you told me what makes you concerned about COVID, because maybe they don't want people walking through their house, and we all know now that we can do virtual showings, right? So we just have to know why they're concerned about that, because it could be different for everybody. So whenever anybody gives you an objection, I don't want to pay commission, I want to wait till fall, whatever it is, I'm really glad you told me what makes you, and then fill it in. What makes you want to wait till the fall? What makes you hesitant because of COVID? What makes you not want to lead generate today? Okay. I threw that in there, but you got to find out a little bit more about what's concerning to them and why. Okay. Okay. So that is the opener. That's the opener. So I'll put it back on screen one more time, but we're going to avoid the word database. We're going to avoid calling list. It's, hey, a while back you expressed interest. The other reason this is great is they could be buyer or seller. So that relieves me from having to read all the history notes, right? Because it's general enough, it would apply to anyone. So it works. Okay, so now what do I say? If you do not read history notes, which by the way, the reason I do not recommend reading a lot of history notes, in fact, let me just ask you, why do you think I would advise you not to read all of the history notes on these old leads? Just take a guess. What's that?
It's another perspective.
Yeah. And you guys are getting it in the chat box. Yeah, their circumstances might have changed. Go ahead.
They may not pick up the phone anyway.
Yes. You guys know what a good pickup ratio is? Jot this down real quick. Those of you in class, you already know this. For the rest of you, 1 out of 5 is a fantastic pickup ratio. That's 20%. So if I dial 5 people, I can expect 1 to pick up, and that's a good day. 50% is like mind-blowing fantastic, and that's usually if you're calling your sphere or your friends. I mean, even when I'm not lead generating, if I just pick up my cell phone to call friends, maybe half of them pick up, right? Forget lead gen. So in lead gen, 1 out of 5 usually pick up. So just do the math with me. I want all of you to do some math for a minute and then tell me what number you came up with. So if you read old history notes, there's no judgment, okay? You're just now getting this training, but I want you to calculate real quick. How long would you say per lead you take to read history notes on average? Just get a number in your head. Okay, I'm seeing like an average of maybe 2 to 3 in the chat box. Now, time that, multiply that times 4, whatever your number is, 4. And I see Kristen came up with 12 minutes, 8 minutes. I think that's for the multiply number. So think about in an hour. Let's just say you're calling for an hour. I know that on average, most people, if they're focused on lead gen, can talk to 6 people an hour. Well, I'm giving you some stats if you want to write these down. So 6 people an hour is pretty average if you're really focused on task. Well, if 4 people didn't pick up for those 6, that means 24 people did not pick up the phone, right? So if you take a minute and think 24 people times whatever it was, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes that you're reading old history notes, do you see all of a sudden why some of us are having trouble hitting our contact goals every day? Now it's the afternoon and I'm talking math. Did that make sense? Yeah. So even just for every 1 pickup, the low end in the chat box was 2 minutes. That was the lowest end that I saw. That's 8 minutes on people that don't pick up the phone, just reading notes. And now we know that's why I'm having trouble hitting my contacts every day, right? So I do not recommend reading call history notes other than while the phone is ringing. So when you dial, now you're not losing time, the phone's ringing. And if they pick up and I haven't read all the history notes yet, it's fine because look, I have a really good call opener right here. So if they pick up and I'm like, oh, I didn't get to read all the notes, no problem. I have an excellent call opener I can use no matter what. Now, if I don't have time and they pick up, I'm just going to anchor it. And I'm going to say, hey, you know, Patty, a while back, you spoke with someone on our team. How are you coming on those moving goals? If you know what they are. If you know what they are. If you do have excellent call history notes, just do a quick scan while the phone is ringing, reference the most recent note, and jump off from there. So it might be, you know, hey, June, I saw that you spoke with Anthony about 3 months ago about your desire to downsize. Tell me a little bit more about what makes you want to downsize. So we're focusing on their motivation and we're making sure that we're getting them into a conversation about their personal goals. Not why didn't you, not what made you put it on hold. It's just about why do you want to do it in the first place. Okay. One quick thing that I've noticed of talented lead generation people, agent and ISA alike, is they don't deviate from motivation. So I was shadowing an agent the other day. This was just last week. I have no idea what the person said on the other end of the line, but here's what I heard. It cracked me up. He said, I'm sure you are a very intelligent and handsome man. So what makes you want to move? And it cracked me up because I thought, what did that guy just say? But I also was very struck with, he did not get distracted. He acknowledged, yep, you just told me something. So what makes you want to move? And that's really what we want to do with these older leads. All right, let's do a couple more things and then I'll open it up for Q&A. And we'll talk through how to learn more about the class that this slide is coming from. So when you're working with your database, have any of you ever walked in to the day and then you think, oh my goodness, I have 60 overdue tasks. How did this happen? or maybe you were out sick unexpectedly, or maybe you inherited someone else's database and now you have all of their overdue tasks and it's overwhelming. Well, I learned the hard way that if I started with the oldest first, they were already cold. Okay. So if you have, say, 60 overdue tasks and 12 of them are from this past week, call them first. Don't do what I did. Because in my mind, I was like, well, let me make them, those older people, not even older, right? Like, let me just start there. But then everyone was always way out of contact. But if I called the most recently dues, they were still pretty hot. So that's what I would recommend, is go ahead and start with your most recently due first. You'll have more success that way. Also, look for who was most active on the site. So if I have 60 overdue tasks, if your system has a way to do this, I would take a look and see, well, who was on our website most recently? And let me start with them. The 6 calls in 6 days strategy, I'm going to skip that for now. Again, this slide is directly out of class, and that's a big strategy that we don't have time to discuss right now. But here's the big picture of it. Call them 6 times in 6 days. So how many of you have ever had a database with maybe like 400 people that are way out of date or more? It makes us cringe, right? Well, if you try to call all 400 of those people once in a blue moon, you're not going to get very far. But if I said, you know what, let's say it's Monday. Today's Monday. I'm going to focus on this small group for a week. And I'm going to call them every day for 6 business days. And every time I call them, I'll leave them a voicemail for 6 business days. You will have more success at getting contact than if you try to call all 400 people once. Because urgency will come from frequency. Write that down. Urgency will come from frequency. So when you have an older database and you're working to get it caught up to speed, you want to handle that close together in time with a lot of frequency for a week. So what I would do, maybe, okay, I have a lot of overdue tasks or leads that are out of touch. I'm going to pick a list and I'm just going to call that for this week. Next week, I'm on to the next chunk. And then the next week, I'm on to the next chunk. That's way more effective than calling a bunch of people once every couple months. There is no urgency to call you back in that scenario. None at all. The last thing I'll show you, then we'll talk about where can you get more of this type of training, and then I'll open it up for Q&A. Last little tip is when you're taking notes, talking to people, you can't really control like what you've inherited. So if I've inherited an older database, I can't control what kind of notes those people took, right? Because they did whatever they did and now they're mine. Or maybe you did it and you didn't have training. So you're like, man, my notes weren't great. Well, what you can do when you set a future task, the left side here is an example of what not to do. I hate to admit it, but you know how your tasks require you to put something in there? Sometimes I just put like a little period because it couldn't be blank. That does not help me at all. So when I pull up my task list, it's like, well, who are these people? I don't even know what this is. Versus on the right-hand side, look at the drastic difference. So let's say that I was out sick for 2 days unexpectedly. And I'm coming in today and I'm like, who do I call today? Who should I focus on? Well, if you look here, out of this list on the right side, who should I probably call first? I've made it really easy for us to know what we should be doing. So look on the right side and unmute or use the chat box. Who would you call first out of that right side?
Nail down a time for Friday appointment.
Oh, yeah. And I saw Kristen said the top. I would say those two. So nail down appointment time for Friday. That is top priority because that is an appointment waiting to be set. This top one, what happened in the appointment Monday, that would be probably my second call. This one is like a follow-up on did she make a pros and cons list with her spouse? But do you see the big difference here? I'm making it easy for myself to prioritize if I was out sick or if someone needs to call on my behalf because I'm out of the office unexpectedly. This just makes it really, really easy. So in the big picture of things, 1, have a quality call opener that focuses on their motivation. 2, don't read all the old history notes because you're going to waste, it sounds like on average, 8 minutes for every one person that picks up the phone. You're going to lose 8 minutes. for all the 4 that didn't pick up the phone. And then lastly, make sure that you keep the conversation about their motivation and take good notes. Take good notes. Marsha, I'll put that back up for you in just a moment. All right. Remember too, this is recorded, so you can watch a recording of this if there was something. We moved fast because I wanted to give you everything that I could in the time that we have. So I'm going to put into the chat box real quick. There is a class called Mastering Inside Sales. It's really mastering lead generation. It is for agents and it is for inside sales agents. You just got 30 minutes. Do you guys think you can make some money off what you just learned in 30 minutes? I mean, you should be able to. You should be able to make a good amount of money from that. So this was 30 minutes of flying really fast. In that class, we have 6 months of hourly webinars. Every week they are recorded. You get 3 hours a month of training. And that class can be found, let me put it up here on screen for you. If you go to Mastering Inside Sales, that next class begins right here, Mastering Inside Sales. That next class begins on August 4th. August 4th. We record every class. So if you miss something and you need to come back and watch it later, that's fine. If you said, man, I need to watch that again, that was good, you can watch it again. So once the class has been taught, it's on demand. You can get that through your client portal. I think my favorite thing about that class is the community. So we have a lot of people that say, I have made friends in that class. I have script partners now from that class. The very first day, I give you a script partner sign up. Now, here's the thing with scripting is if the other person has not been trained the way you are, how are they supposed to tell you if you're doing it right? Right? And so June is in that class. Jenny is in that class. They can partner up and be script partners and actually say, yeah, you did that right. Or, ooh, you missed something. Let's do that again. So that class again is masteringinsidesales.com. It's August 4th. I would say about half the class are agents, half the class are inside sales agents. So whatever your role is, if you talk to humans and you want them to become a client, the class will benefit you. We even have a photographer in there right now. She goes to church with me and she said, can I take your class? I said, you can, you'll just need to tweak it because it's for real estate. And she told me she has seen an increase in her business. So if you talk to people with the goal of turning them into a client, it will benefit you. So masteringinsidesales.com. Kelly, the class is going to be on Wednesdays and it will be at, I got to remember, it'll be at 2:30. I think it's at 2:30. It'll tell you when you go to sign up. Forgive me, I have multiple running and so I can't remember the exact time, but it'll be Wednesdays. And if you want to give me a minute, I'll just look at my calendar. And somebody asked about a coupon code. If you are a mastery client, there is a coupon code. Shoot me an email and I'll get that for you. And that's for mastery clients. Just so you all know, that class used to be $800 a month. And when COVID hit, I went to Maps and I said, can we make this class more affordable for agents to participate in? And we dropped it to $199. So just know, even if you don't have a coupon code, you're getting a $601 savings compared to what it used to be. It used to be $800 a month. Okay, let me see if I can find the schedule. And then if you have a question, just go ahead and put it in the chat box real quick. That class will be from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays, starting August 4th. I think it's a lot of fun. It's my favorite hour. Oh, my email is mapscoachanna@gmail.com. It's $199 a month. And we do that because we didn't want you to have to pay for it all up front. So we said $199 a month. And here's the thing, the average commission is $7,500. I think it's probably higher now with our crazy home prices. But if you get one closing from the class, it's a 3 times ROI. And you should get way more than that. You should get way, way, way more than one closing. It's 1 to 2 p.m. Central, Kelly. I think you had a typo. It's 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 2 p.m. Central. It's in when you go to sign up, the contract will have all that in there for you. And then a reminder, it is recorded. So if you need to watch it later, if you can't join us at that time, that's totally fine. Okay. Any other questions? I think I got everything, but that chat box was flying by. You guys have been awesome. I've loved your interaction today. Thank you so much. So masteringinsidesales.com. This was like half of one presentation out of 18 in that class. So you will get a lot out of that class. And you can have 2 people per 1 contract from the same team. So again, MAPS made a big exception. Usually it's 1 person per 1 contract. But for this class, we went from $800 down to $199 a month. And then I said, can we put 2 people on per contract? And they said, yes, you just have to be within the same team. So if Glory and Mady are on the same team, they can be on the same contract, max 2 per 1 contract. Okay. Oh, someone said, what's your Facebook page? ISA Mastermind Group is the Facebook page that I run. Kelly, is this class good for assistants? I think it just depends what they're doing. So if they're interacting with people to turn them into clients, yes. Yes. Cassandra, yes, it used to be $800 a month. Yes, Marcia, adding the second person on the sign up, I believe you can do that on the contract. I know you can do that on the contract. So what'll happen, just because these are common questions, when you register, as soon as you register, you'll get an automated email telling you about the client portal. And sometimes it'll say the portal is up and running, and sometimes it'll say the portal will be up soon because class is still about 3 weeks away. However, before class begins, you will get access to the client portal, and I'll go ahead and show it to you. We're a little over, so if you have to go, that's fine, but a lot of you are curious about this class, so I'll show you real quick. Here's the client portal for the class we're in right now, Mastering Inside Sales. This is the one that started like 2 or 3 months ago. But you can see each session that we've completed. And let's say that you think, I really want to watch June 9th again. That was really good. Well, I was on vacation, I missed it. Right here is the recording. So you can come in and watch it. And here it is. I'll show it to you. You can see it right there. And I was trying to see if you could see all the participants. In real time, you can see everyone else that's in the class. That's what I love. It's like a little community of people, which I think is awesome. What other questions? Patty said, does the client portal stay up for 60 days after? Yes. So the class is 6 months long. And then MAPS will leave up the recordings for 2 extra months. So you really have 8 months of the client portal for the 6-month class. And the thing is, you get notes. Every class, I give you a notebook that has every slide on it, every detail of every slide. So take good notes. You have 8 months to watch the videos. You should be good. And honestly, we have a lot of people take it multiple times. The first time you take it, it's like you're getting it in your head. The second time you take it, you're beginning to really understand it. And by the 3rd time, you're mastering it. So we at this point have people that are like alumni over and over. Kelly says, Kelly, just shoot me an email. So I'll be totally honest with you all. When it comes to discount codes and all that, can I tell you a secret? MAPS is really good at keeping me in my one thing. So I don't do anything with the website, the portal, discount codes, none of that. I have no idea. I show up and teach, and they handle everything else. So for discount codes, actually the best place to email is fasttrack@kw.com. And they're usually for people that are in Mastery. Mastery gets a discount. But remember, the class used to be $800, now it's $199. So y'all are really getting a $600 discount. Thank you, COVID. That opened the door for us to think about that. So one thing that we were able to do. All right, guys, we are at time. A little over, actually, so I'm going to let you guys go. But hey, implement what you learned today. I'm confident you will have at least 1 closing from today's content. I would love to see you in the class that starts August 4th. And if you would spread the word, a lot of people don't know that class exists. So I'm looking for people to help just spread the word about it. Whether you're interested or you think someone you know would benefit, let them know. Again, it's masteringinsidesales.com. And I'll put my email back in the chat box for you. mapscoachanna@gmail.com. Perfect. Ooh, Marcia, thank you. She's going to post on the private Facebook page for her group. Awesome. Yay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for your time today. You guys were awesome. This is actually one of the best webinars we've done with engagement, and y'all were super engaged. And I hope I will see a lot of you on August 4th. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.